Over 670,000 Americans are homeless. 48 million people go hungry every night, and 46.2 million Americans live in poverty. These are the statistics that make organizations like Straight Street Orlando essential and what make the dire need for increased volunteer efforts even more pressing. Today, For Good PR will be presenting our public relations campaign to mobilize Straight Street Orlando's volunteer efforts through redesigning their online presence and enhancing their new media platforms. We are For Good PR, and I am Brooke Bumgardner, and my teammates are Raquel, Olivia, and Tiffany.
Even with a weak online presence, Straight Street Orlando still manages to mobilize hundreds of volunteers for their weekly food shares. For Good PR is a public relations organization that aims to spread awareness for the common good. Our agency is looking at specific objectives proposed in this campaign that include utilizing new media to attract volunteers. In today's world, social media is a vital tool, a tool underdeveloped by this organization. With our help, they will be able to take full advantage of such an important aspect of marketing and draw more volunteers who will donate both their time and their money to promote this important cause. These objectives will also be used as key performance indicators to measure the success of the campaign. Straight Street Orlando is a 501c3 nonprofit urban mission that aims to cater to the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of the homeless. They were founded on August 13, 2009. Their mission statement is, "We exist to bring hope to the hopeless, faith to the faithless, and encourage life change from the inside out." They hold two main events twice a week. It's their food shares. The first one is on Tuesdays at 6:30, and the second one is on Sundays at 6. And this food shares, they take place in the parking lot of the St. George Orthodox Church in downtown Orlando, and it takes $510 a month to keep the food shares going. They rely strictly on volunteer donations who volunteer their time and money to sponsor a food share in which about 250 homeless people come twice a week to get what might be their only meal of the day. Straight Street relies solely on volunteers, which might pose a problem for the organization because more hands and more money is always needed. An opportunity Straight Street has is that they enjoy a positive reputation for their selfless efforts to help the Central Florida homeless community. We talked to both Straight Street volunteers and homeless people, and we heard nothing but positive things about the organizations. Volunteers expressed the importance of the organization to the community and emphasized the need for more volunteers. We also talked to Cameron, one of the homeless men benefiting from Straight Street food shares. He says he is a diabetic and he needs it in order to remain healthy. He talked about the need for more organizations like this, not only because of the fact that they provide food, but because they foster a social aspect in which they get to connect with other people in their community. Another one of their opportunities is that they get a lot of volunteers from the University of Central Florida Community Service Office, and they're very good with word of mouth. So they already have a strong existing volunteer base. So we conducted a SWOT analysis to assess the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of Straight Street, and For Good PR determined that their strengths are that they already have an existing volunteer base. They're partnered with UCF, which provides a lot of other volunteers, and they're one of the few organizations doing food shares, and they are not restricted by any laws. Some of their weaknesses are that their website is outdated, and so is their social media. There's a lack of public awareness, and they rely strictly on volunteer donations. Some of the opportunities of Straight Street Orlando are that For Good PR can strengthen their website and their social media sites to mobilize more volunteers, and promotional content has already been produced for them. Some of the threats are the lack of resources to conduct food drives, the lack of public awareness, and recent laws enacted by Orlando that restrict food shares and might affect them in the future.
For our research, we went to the food drive and talked to the main woman in charge along with the homeless. As Raquel stated before, our friend Cameron relies on Straight Street for his daily needs. The demand is that these homeless people need Straight Street every Sunday and Tuesday so that they can basically survive. We're not competing with many people like us, but there are different food banks in Orlando.
The new media audit that For Good PR conducted about Straight Street Orlando found that their current website is heavily outdated and it needs some substantial new components. At the current time, Straight Street Orlando is not showing up when you Google homeless organizations in the Central Florida area or even when you Google homelessness in general. This needs to change. In order to do so, new components like a blog need to be introduced onto the website. In addition, as Raquel stated, Straight Street Orlando has not updated their website in the past 2 years. This needs to be updated regularly and new multimedia components need to be added as well. Just one of these options is a blog, where others, like the promotional content that Straight Street Orlando has already received from us for good PR, can be added as well. Another area that they are lacking is in their social media. They need to mobilize these platforms and use social media to their advantage. This means that they need a better quality versus quantity. They don't need necessarily hundreds and thousands more followers, but the followers that they have need to be more geared towards actually doing something in homelessness. They need to be creating the type of posts that will attract more discourse and attract actual volunteers to the homeless campaign.
Straight Street Orlando's primary client is the homeless population in Orlando. The secondary target audience is the volunteers that we need to help hand out food during the food drives. As we plan to redesign and modernize Straight Street's website as well as our social media sites, we will be researching new volunteers as well as old. The organizational stakeholders are the employees, the church, the food sponsors, and the volunteers are all people who care about the company and want to better it. As we work to better our company's social media presence, each strategic group will be impacted in such a positive way. Our volunteers will be able to see how much of an impact they are making in our community. The homeless will benefit because they are given a hot meal every Sunday and Tuesday, and that would not be possible without donations and our volunteers' help.
The primary research plan begins by determining who Straight Street Orlando has been reaching out to in regards of looking for volunteers and who has been in charge of their social media accounts and their website. As far as the target audience, research needs to be conducted to determine who Straight Street has reached directly when attempting to recruit volunteers. The researchers need to access to the website's Google Analytics and organization's social media metrics in order to improve their online presence. The campaign is both motivational and informational because it aims to increase awareness to the homeless, increase attendance from volunteers, and enlarge the client base as a whole. It has been difficult for Straight Street Orlando to donate their time because they do not look like a credible agency even though they are one. Usually when people are trying to find someone, they use Google, but people have not been able to find them. The goal for Straight Street Orlando is to increase their engagement by 30%. This campaign will use a social media strategy to engage the target audience volunteer. The content marketing strategy will engage the amount of visits and views they get on the organization's website and social media accounts. These strategies will include development messages based on themes such as starting hashtags like Straight Street Sundays, posting pictures on their social media accounts, and changing their Instagram settings from private to public. They will rely on Instagram as well as their Facebook page to increase credibility to appear on Google.
The timeline of this campaign is proposed to be a 5-month-long campaign. It will begin May 1st of 2016 with website enhancement. The first 15 days of this campaign will be strictly devoted to Straight Street Orlando engaging in new PR type methods for both their website and their social media accounts. The social media redesign will account for the second half of the month of May. During this time, both these primary platforms, the website and their multiple social media accounts, need to be redesigned so that engagement can be heightened. On June 1st, a mini video series will be started. Each week, every Monday, we propose that Straight Street produce a new video to help get engagement in the Orlando community. July 15th, another mini video series will help. will start. This will be for volunteer testimonials versus the first, which should be stories from the homeless individuals themselves. Part of this is about humanizing the homeless cause, and the second part is about trying to get more volunteers when they hear from people just like them. On August 1st, we will have a community call to action, which will promote our final event. The final event will be on September 4th, which will be the community food share, and it will be a wrap-up to Straight Street's timeline and campaign. The budget that we propose for this to happen is less than $500 because Straight Street Orlando should continue to remain in need of volunteer efforts. These volunteer efforts can come in monetary donations as well, which is why we propose that they do not spend over $500. The most that would need to be spent would be $200 or less on a camera to help them film their new mini video series. And for the final food share, they should be trying to find a community volunteer as well. This means that in total, they should not have to spend over $500 for any additional costs such as food, decorations, or promotional material. The one thing that will possibly need to be spent will be around $150 for also 150 flyers to promote this final event.
We want Straight Street to gain a 40% increase in followers. Over the 5-month period, we will be looking at the change on each of our social media accounts. We will be liking and following people who interact with homeless-related events. By targeting these people, we will have a strong chance of getting them out to a Straight Street event. Our profiles will be public so everyone can interact and see the rise of Straight Street Orlando.